So one of the questions that we asked was how violence impacts a paramedic's work life. But what was interesting is their response didn't talk about the impact to their work life. What was overwhelming was they talked about their personal life, and they used language and words that were so defeating and sad and lonely. They talked about decrease in morale, not wanting to return to work. One person said, "It makes you shine a little bit less bright." And I've never forgot that quote. So that was the most, I'd say, overwhelming part of that feedback, was how it makes paramedics feel.
Why do you think we normalized it for so long?
I believe that it was normalized because I would say paramedicine, but honestly, I think that it's fair for me to more broadly say healthcare. It's been believed that there's absolutely nothing you can do to prevent it. And so if you can't prevent it, then what's the point in reporting it? If you're not reporting it, your employer doesn't even know about it, so they can't support you, which is what ultimately people want. They definitely can't action anything, and they don't have any information to create change. They have no data because we're not giving it to them as paramedics. And so it just becomes a vicious cycle. And then if I was going to take it one step further, I would say, so the culture doesn't support it because we think the employer believes, managers believe, even paramedics, that there's nothing that we can do to change the problem. So the reporting's not happening, the data's not there, the support doesn't exist. What information is going to police about all of the physical assaults that happen? None. So does anything actually make it into the criminal justice system if we're not even reporting internally to police? No. So there is no hope for change unless you're reporting. The service has to make it safe to do it. They have to remove the barriers, and they have to start working on changing the culture.
Which you did and Peel did through just taking this data and saying, okay, what are our next steps? Which is huge.
Yeah, actually. So if you're thinking about the question that you just asked and my answer, I experienced a lot of violence over the course of my career, various forms. For the paramedics, everybody, I'm assuming most people are paramedics listening. I had to attend 2,000 calls, but I can say that they weren't even the most impactful. They weren't the ones that sat with me or bothered me the most, even though arguably both of them were true life threats. I mean, it certainly was for my partner. My partner was being strangled on one of the calls. It was actually the intimidation, the sexual harassment, and the verbal abuse that bothered me far more. And I remember one day, actually, I don't remember this incident, but somebody who's now my colleague as a commander was my superintendent at the time. He remembers having a conversation with me following a call. Apparently we were parked at a gas station. He came to meet us there because he knew I was upset and bothered by this call that we just did. And I started talking to him about the violence we experienced. And I said, it's not right. We need to do something to change it. And he said, but yeah, Mandy, I don't know what that is. I don't know what we could possibly do to change or influence patients to stop committing violence against us or whomever. And now he talks about that story because it's something that he remembers. I don't. And he thinks, yeah, we had that conversation a year before you started the EVAP work group and leading this team. And look at you. You did do something. You figured it out, which is pretty crazy.